For what has not only become America's favorite sport, but its most bet on as well. From the preseason to the playoffs, VSiN will get you ready for all the gaming information on the NFL and college football. Right now on Between the Sidelines.
Thank you, Ron Flatter. You heard it. John Murray from the Westgate Superbook here, as he always is on Tuesdays. Jonathan Von Tobel and Sam Panayotovich as well, as we are here on Between the Sidelines, our football show. 60 minutes of pigskin pontification, and we start with 3 and out here on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. And we go back to last night, Monday Night Football. How'd you guys do over at the Superbook, John Murray? The Buccaneers, who got a lot of action, don't come in, but the over does.
We would have done a lot better if it had gone under, Johnny.
Okay.
It's hard for an NFL game to go under when there's a flag on every single play.
Only 22 last night.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like there was a roughing the passer penalty on almost every passing play. And just audible groans at the bar I was at after each one of those.
22 flags for 235 yards.
Yeah, and now the competition committee has come out and said, we don't like this, as you heard in Ron's update, and we're going to take a look at this. A week after, it seemed like they were doubling down and sending out Clay Matthews' roughing the passer call on Kirk Cousins to show everybody that this is exactly what we're trying to prevent.
Did Clay Matthews do something to somebody at the National Football League? I mean, those penalties on Clay Matthews have been just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's been pretty
Specifically, Clay Matthews.
You mentioned the penalties, too. 13 penalties alone on the Pittsburgh Steelers for 155 yards. Darius Hayward-Bay had a really boneheaded penalty after a punt where he's screaming at a side judge and eventually gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Let me ask you this before we get to Fitzpatrick and the comeback that fell short. When you look at the Steelers, defense isn't great. A lot of off-the-field issues when it comes to Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. Is Mike Tomlin, as the question was posted yesterday, losing this team?
I don't think so. I think we don't want to overreact too much. They still have so much talent offensively. They can still right the ship and win the AFC North, John. But their defense has a lot of problems.
Yeah.
They would have real trouble stopping Kansas City. Well, I mean,
they did.
They did, and they would again, I should say,
Which,
if they met in the postseason.
You still got to give them credit coming back from a 21-point deficit to make that a game last week against Kansas City. Yeah. They still have the horses, if you will, on offense. Defense, not so much. So let's take a look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because despite all of the struggles from Ryan Fitzpatrick yesterday, they still have the ball with a chance to win it at the end of the game. And the question for you here is we have the tale of the tape between Ryan Fitzpatrick and Jameis Winston. If you're running the Buccaneers, right, is there any way that you can take Ryan Fitzpatrick out here? 2-1 record, 70% completion. You can see the numbers if you're watching the broadcast. And in terms of you behind the counter, there's not much of a difference, I would think, between these two guys.
I don't think there's much difference right now if we're talking about the point spread, John. Yeah. If I was running the Buccaneers, I'd just stay with Fitzpatrick. I know he had a rocky first half last night, but he's been playing so well. Jameis Winston is just such a knucklehead. I'd keep going with Fitzpatrick if I was them.
Seeing threes on the market now, too. Pretty much 3 at every shop in Vegas. If it is Winston, I would actually probably downgrade them, too, because the guy hasn't played. I mean, he hasn't played a rep of football since last season. It'd be hard to upgrade them.
No, you can't upgrade them with Winston in there. No. I'd probably leave it about the same. I thought the market overreacted week 1 when Winston got suspended initially.
Yeah, and went to 9.5 against the Saints.
There's not much difference between those two guys. And Fitzpatrick is the hot hand, so I'd keep going with him.
Steelers were my last play in the Super. That was way too sweaty for me. I mean, it was 30-10. Yeah. And then our boys kicked the field goal. I know you love field goals.
Oh, yeah.
To go down 17.
Winners.
You always want to cut it from 20 to 17.
It's crucial.
Sammy.
It's crucial at that point in the game.
The Steelers didn't even score in the second half last night.
I know. Yep. I'm holding -1 in the Super contest. I'm thinking it's over at the half. It's 30-10, and then flag, and here we are. It's a 3-point game.
By the way, if we're going to go off on this tangent very quickly, the Chiefs and the 49ers game, you talk about losers kicking field goals. Down 14 points with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Kyle Shanahan decides to kick a field goal to cut it from 14 to 11.
And what happened, John? They did not cover the spread, and they did not win the game.
No.
Because kicking field goals is for losers.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Ryan Fitzpatrick, a loser last night, but still a man of great spirit. Talked about the comeback falling short.
Yeah, tough spot to turn it over 4 times and really 3, interceptions on me. Can't have them. Hard to win a game that way. And we obviously dug ourselves a pretty big hole there. The great thing to me coming out of this game is, again, the belief in the huddle in the second half and guys not wavering and not blinking and, having the feeling that whole time that we were going to come back and win the game, and the defense playing their tails off and, giving us an opportunity with almost 3 minutes left in the game, I think in a couple timeouts and a 2-minute warning to drive down and get 3 points. To me, obviously the turnovers I'm disappointed with, but that drive, for our defense to give us that opportunity and to not make anything out of it. That's what hurts the most for me.
The starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and should be the starting quarterback next week against Chicago. So let's move on to second down. We do have another quarterback controversy, if you will, but this one's in college football. Clemson has a new signal caller. It would be Trevor Lawrence, now named the starting quarterback for Clemson going into their contest against Syracuse, a revenge spot for the Tigers, who lost to the Orange last year. So let me ask you this. So we always talk about quarterbacks in the NFL. What's the point spread difference? What's the process like for these college quarterbacks where I would think there's, and especially guys like this, I mean, what Kelly Bryant brings to the table as opposed to what Trevor Lawrence brings to the table, they are on the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of what kind of quarterbacks they are.
Yeah, it's hard to really evaluate Lawrence, the true freshman, but I give Dabo Swinney a lot of credit, John. It's not easy to pull the quarterback, Bryant, who hasn't lost a game this season, but if you watch Clemson, you can tell that Lawrence is their better option. Nick Saban waited all the way till halftime of the national championship game. Yeah. He got away with that last year. I really admire Swinney for pulling the trigger now.
This is something I think you forecasted, though, because you guys have had Heisman Trophy odds for months now, and you had a better price, better odds on Lawrence. You had a better price than Bryant, even though Bryant was the starter week 1.
Well, he was the number 2 high school player in the country last year. The talent is there with Lawrence, and I think it's the right move for Clemson if they're going to have any chance to compete with Alabama in the college football playoff.
And you see it. We have these tales of the tape for you because I know you're a big combat sports guy, John Murray. So we have multiple ones.
Yes.
But you see the numbers, at least in terms of passing. Trevor Lawrence is the more gifted passer. Sure, completion percentage a slight bit below, but what Kelly Bryant is completing, 66.7 for Bryant to 65 to Trevor Lawrence. But look at the total passing yards, 600. The touchdowns through the air, 9 to just 2 for Kelly Bryant. And then you see the difference in terms of their game, 130 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns for Bryant, as opposed to just 24 and no touchdowns on the ground.
At some point, the talent has to take over.
Yep.
We saw that with Tagovailoa going in for Hurts last year. We're seeing it again here. You got to go to the more talented player.
And it just takes the cover off the defense, right? When you have a threat that can throw it 30, 40 yards with accuracy, it adds an element to that offense they haven't had.
And we saw it last year. Was it 24-6 Alabama-Clemson in the playoff? Yeah. And Clemson, they knew what they were doing the entire time.
Stack the box.
Yep, stack the box, stop Bryant from doing anything on the ground, and he's just going to try to throw a go route, and we'll cover that one-on-one. There's nothing else you can do.
We took a lot of sharp bets on Alabama in that game.
Yeah.
That was a really sharp side, and the public was all over Clemson. And we saw what happened. Alabama, like you just said, they suffocated Kelly Bryant. Clemson couldn't do anything offensively.
So let's look to this weekend. I'll start with you, Sam. Clemson, about a 23-point favorite in that revenge spot, now 24 here at the South Point Hotel and Casino against Syracuse, coming off of the dominant win over Florida State.
Be tough to go against Clemson here. And look at where this line has moved. Globally, it opened up at 19.5, and I thought, wow, that's I need more points than that. It has moved all the way to 24 now, and I still want more if I want to back the orange here. This is a tough spot. Revenge on the mind. Clemson can score now. They've shown you they can score. We know they have a really good defense. Now they can score. Revenge on the mind. It's a pass for me.
Should correct, by the way, that Florida State was a week before UConn, just this last week.
I really like the Syracuse quarterback, Dungy. I think he's really good. I like Babers, the head coach, a lot, too. That's a lot of points in that game. But like Sammy just said, Clemson can score the football now. They're a dangerous team. Everyone's just handing the title to Alabama. But Clemson and Georgia and Ohio State all look like they're very good as well.
I think Syracuse, I don't think it's that crazy to say they're the second-best team in the ACC.
I don't think that's crazy at all. And Babers has done a terrific job there. And I think he'll be able to keep this game close initially. But Clemson's talent level is so much greater than Syracuse. They might be able to blow them away in the second half.
Well, how many points do you need then? So they're getting 24. What's the magic number? How many do you need from
Syracuse? Oh, no, I'm already looking.
21?
No, I mean, I'm already number? I'm already looking. Yeah, Syracuse catching points, I think, is a pretty solid.
But they could give up 50. They could give up 50 on the road.
They could, but they could also score 30 or 35.
Yeah, so the magic number would be about 20. You need 28 then to cover this ideally.
They're going to be pretty good, and they have the offensive firepower to stay within this number. And I will say this, Dabo Swinney's not going to pull any punches, and we've seen coaches. Look at James Franklin, what he did, that bad beat that we talked about already. Lovie Smith, Illinois.
Let's move on.
There's some coaches who don't pull punches, and you saw that with Penn State and Illinois, where you have your backup quarterback taking shots downfield, and Illinois blows a 20. You were catching 27 points, and you can't cover despite being up 24-21. There's coaches who do that. This looks like a spot where Swinney, if he can, he might do it.
I admire the coaches that don't pull punches.
Yeah.
I know that you're not going to like hearing that right now.
It's fine.
But I don't like the coaches to take their foot off the gas. I would keep going until the game's over just to be on the safe side.
Yep. All right, and this last one, because you are a Big Ten guy, Sam, I threw this in there, but this is huge. Spinal condition forces Jeremy Larkin to call it a career. He will no longer play for Northwestern. He is their leading rusher. And, in fact, we have some of the numbers of what he's done this year, not only on the ground, but in terms of receptions. Not only is their leading rusher, Sam, he accounts thus far for 98.6 of their total rushing yards this year.
And remember what happened last year. They had a guy by the name of Justin Jackson, who was their all-time leading rusher in Evanston. They lose him to the NFL. He was banging around in the practice squad for the Titans. Larkin was their number 2 last year. So now you're down to John Moten, who, let's be real, is not a number 1 back in college. And now you need to establish a run game, John, against Michigan. That is so huge. If you don't have a run game against Michigan, you are cooked. And they're on to their 3rd back, essentially, against probably the best defense in the Big Ten.
We had a sharp group come in yesterday, Sam. Laid Michigan minus 13.5 in that game. Michigan looks like they've really righted the ship after that Notre Dame game.
Oh, yeah. And I thought it was going to be much more competitive against Nebraska. Yeah. Wasn't even close over at the first snap.
That was a game that was never even there was a lot of Nebraska fans in the book, and they left early, let's say that. Yeah, it was never competitive.
John Murray, the Westgate, director of the Westgate Superbook, I should add. Remember, in 15 minutes, we do have our Guess the Closing Lines segment where we look at all the closing lines and guess what they will be at by the time we reach kickoff in the National Football League. On the other side, we're going to take a look at the Heisman race. And, of course, Tua Tagovailoa at the top. You're now laying a price with him over at the Westgate. But I put a wager in over at your book today on a guy who's 80-1, and I'm totally in. So we're going to get to the Heisman race next.
This is Between the Sidelines, the daily football show that gets you ready for all the action. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at VSiN.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
Want to get an edge over Vegas in the books? BetQL is available for download, and it's the only mobile app that puts all the important research you need to make smart bets in one place. With BetQL, you can easily access line movement to see how the lines change throughout the day. The app gives you access to public betting trends in real time, so you can see which side the public is favoring. BetQL's powerful algorithm gives users value bets of the day, and these are based off of detailed, recent, and historical team trends. You can also calculate your return on your picks and track them throughout the day. Best part of all is that you can download BetQL for free from your Apple or Android device. All you have to do, head to the website betql.co to download the only app you need to outsmart Vegas. That's betql.co. BetQL, brought to you by the creators of RotoQL, the leading daily fantasy lineup optimizer trusted by 100,000 DFS players. If you're having a slow start in DFS, you can also download RotoQL for free for both Apple and Android. So get your edge over Vegas in the books and check it out today at betql.co.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
Do not jump, as a gambler, do not jump to conclusions on athletes, players, coaches. Do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor when you do this, because these guys will beat you the next time. I'll tell you right now that the Buffalo Bills are going to cover some spreads this year, okay? And maybe this week. There are some really good players on the Buffalo Bills. Trust me on this one, okay? These guys can flat play, all right? And let's say Josh Allen unleashes that rocket arm from Laramie, Wyoming, and hits 2 70-yarders. Bada bing, say goodbye to your cash.
No, Paul, I agree with you, but where's the line? Where's the line of this is so egregious it had to be a mistake? And where? That's why I think that. And
what
again,
happened there?
I don't work at the control board, but my guess is that they are going to make them pay them.
Now
pay this gentleman.
You think so? You think he's going to win the lawsuit?
Oh, wow. I do. I think, because where's the line? I mean, yeah, of course that was a glitch. That was an egregious error. But where's the line? Where do you say this is so obviously an error, and where you say, okay, well, this one's not that bad?
Yeah, you're right.
How do you determine that?
People ask me all the time. My number one question is newbies on Twitter saying, hey, Crack, can you help me out with this? I'm trying to do this. What should I do? How should I? Listen, I hate to give a shameless plug, but turn on VSiN. Seriously. I mean, for sports betting, where else are you going to get 24-hour network? Or where else are you going to get a network like this to help people just by turning on a Sirius radio or going to VSiN.com? I'm not trying to really, you didn't tell me to do this. I'm just telling you the truth. The people at home should subscribe to this and get the information. It's a great start for them.
The Bears haven't shown that they're going to be a high-powered offense yet. We know in the offseason they went out and got Allen Robinson and Gabriel, and they drafted Anthony Miller, and signed Trey Burton as a free agent. So they have a lot of skilled players there that can help. But until I see Trubisky take that next level and really produce at a high pace. You look at Kansas City and how Patrick Mahomes opened it up, and you even looked last year at how Deshaun Watson was scoring points and opening it up. I still haven't seen Mitchell Trubisky do that yet, so until he can do that on a continuous basis, I think a lot of Bear games are going to be closer, a lot more defensive battles, and I think maybe the under is the play here tonight as well.
Welcome back to our daily football show, live from the Sportsbook at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Now back to Between the Sidelines.
We have, quote, breaking news that's kind of funny.
Rotoworld reporting that Chris Conte is out for the season. So the last play of Chris Conte's season is getting stiff-armed because he got shoved.
Yeah, I know.
Stiff arm. That's hilarious. They're saying it's a knee injury, but it's really a broken spirit.
Was that his last play? I thought he came back in.
No, that was it.
That was tough to watch, John. I mean, that's about as bad a stiff arm as you'll ever. And the guy runs for a touchdown because there's nobody else back there defensively. It doesn't get much worse than that.
It did look like a middle schooler attempting to take down a grown man.
It was bad.
Last play of his season. He is done for the season. Injured reserve.
So, on a bigger note, too, if you look at that secondary overall, like with Grimes dealing with an injury, they had 3 rookies on the back end at one point against the Steelers. So if you want to be serious about this, that's something to look at with the Tampa Bay Bucs.
I always want to be serious, and I'm going to consider that, John.
There you go. I like
Thank
it.
you.
Lock it away. Let's go to the Blitz. Something we take very seriously here on Between the Sidelines. Whoosh. Now, you see here on the Blitz, I am going to throw this up. So, Tua Tagovailoa is the odds-on favorite at the Westgate Superbook. You're laying $1.50 with him over at the Westgate. Opening number on him was?
12-1. We had a guy that bet 2,200 at 12-1, John. That's a pretty good-looking ticket.
So, from 12-1 to the favorite at -150. So, these are JVT's totally respectable Heisman watch list candidates, all right? These are in order. This is a ranking.
I love this.
Yes. Tua Tagovailoa, no surprise here at the top of this list. All right. Last week, 22 of 30, 387 yards, 4 touchdowns. That was a Texas A&M game. They failed to cover, which I think should count. He couldn't cover 27 points. Yeah. But if we were handing out the Heisman here in Las Vegas, that's what we would do. Dwayne Haskins, I actually wanted to put Will Grier ahead of Dwayne Haskins because of the competition. But then I looked at what Dwayne Haskins has done number-wise, and I'm like, all right. He's stacking up a lot in terms of the stat sheet against lesser competition. 21-24, 304 yards, 5 touchdowns versus Tulane. Will Grier checks in 6-1 over at the Westgate. All odds courtesy of the Westgate. Last week, 25-35, 356, 5 touchdowns versus K-State. And then Benny Snell, 80-1 over in your book. He's last. Number 4. Last week, 25 attempts, 165 yards, 4 touchdowns in the upset of Mississippi State. He was awesome against Florida. That's my top 4. What do you think?
I like the name of the segment. Just right off the bat, it's a good name for a segment. Benny Snell, number 4, feels like a homer pick, John.
I like how the arrow's pointing up, too.
Because he just made it in, right? So I actually, this is what happens. You move up and down throughout. So he was actually not in the top 4 last week. But when you upset a ranked team and you already have a pretty good list, at least in terms of what you've done thus far, you move up.
Could you pick Benny Snell out of a lineup right now?
Me? Absolutely not.
I couldn't either.
I had let me just say one thing. You mentioned that Tua didn't cover the spread on Saturday, John. I was on Texas A&M in that game. The only reason that they didn't cover the spread is because they took Tua out and they put Hurts in, and I don't think they scored again after. If Tua had stayed in the game, they would have won by 40.
That and, can you stop a quarterback sneak from Kellen Mond? Like, that was the only offense that Texas A&M had, and they pulled it off quite a few times.
Stayed within the number, and here in Las Vegas, Johnny, that's all that matters.
That's right. That is right. So maybe Kellen Mond should be at the top of this list.
I don't know about that, but Will Grier, my quarterback, I'm a West Virginia grad. I think he should be number 2, but I can't disagree with you on Haskins. He's had a very impressive season so far.
What do you think top 4?
Oh, my top 4. Well, I had Herbert in there before the season, and if they don't lose that game, we're talking about Justin Herbert still being in the top 5 or 6 of the country, but that's just a catastrophic loss, and they won't make a deep put. I mean, that's a program-rattling loss for the Oregon Ducks. I would probably throw Kyler Murray in the top 4, probably before Benny Snell, maybe.
Kyler Murray, lucky to escape against Army on Saturday, Sammy. That was a very lackluster performance from the Sooners.
Well, he's got the numbers to be up there. The other guy...
I like moments, Sam.
You like moments?
When you respond to the spotlight, even though that game was not on TV anywhere, when you respond in spots like that.
A lot of Heisman moments on September 20th or whatever it was, John. I think it's a little early for that sort of thing. Mackenzie Milton, another guy we have a big liability on at the Westgate, but I think his ceiling would be maybe getting an invitation to New York.
Yeah.
I don't think he can actually win the Heisman playing that schedule.
I remember after that first game, too, wasn't he like 75 or 80 to 1? And who did he torch the first game? It was a standalone game, remember? Week 1. It was on like a Thursday or a Friday. UConn, Mackenzie Milton.
Oh, yeah.
He threw 5 touchdowns. You guys dropped him like 12 to 1.
Yeah, well, we got a big liability on him, but at this point we got such a liability on Tua. We just want people to bet on anybody else.
I mean, that's a good program too to light up. UConn.
Yeah, UConn is struggling in football and basketball, John.
I'm glad you brought up Mackenzie Milton. He was on the panel's others considered list. KJ Costello, Jonathan Taylor, Devin Singletary, and Mackenzie Milton on the list of guys also considered for this award.
Can I ask you who comprises this panel outside of yourself?
Myself and I.
Okay.
Yes.
Because you said panel. But
And Diego.
Name
Him and the baby.
Yeah, my son. My newborn son. Who, if he flicks his hand wildly because he cannot control his motor functions yet and he hits a player, I'm like, all right, we're in.
Put him on there.
Yeah,
okay. That sounds like a respectable panel. I like it.
Okay, let me ask. See, in all seriousness, because part of the Heisman, like, winning the award is big moments and, primetime spots and winning them. KJ Costello, we'll start with Costello. Good primetime spot against Oregon, the comeback. And when you watch these games, although they never watch in terms of just college football in general, West Coast games, if you watch Stanford games overall, the issue with Costello is that he is held back by David Shaw. Like, the play calling is bad. The first half against San Diego State, where they're just running into an 8-man box until finally they open it up and they realize I have a 6 million foot wide receiver in J.J. Arcega-Whiteside that I can use against smaller guys. Yeah. And then they opened it up against Oregon, and he was actually finding guys downfield like Arcega-Whiteside on that box out touchdown. So that's going to hurt him. But what about KJ Costello?
I feel like everyone criticizes David Shaw every season, and all that guy does is win football games. I know they got lucky on Saturday night, obviously, but how many times can this guy get lucky? I mean, all this guy does is win.
If Mario Cristobal knows how to coach, they don't win that game.
Well, you don't have to tell me. Sammy and I already vented about the Oregon loss. I can't believe Oregon lost that game. That was our biggest decision at the book on Saturday, John. We needed Oregon in a big way in that game.
My jaw fell to the floor when they lost that. I could not believe, like, everything that had to go wrong for them not to win that game. Forget about the cover. I mean, they should have won the game. They were getting 2. They should have won the game outright. Like, 17 things had to go wrong, and they all went wrong.
To answer your question, Costello, I don't think they throw the ball enough. He's not going to be able to compete with these other quarterbacks that are putting up these video game numbers.
Here's a player that you should maybe circle. If you think Penn State has a good game and they upset Ohio State, you can get Trace McSorley right now. You guys have 20. Other players or other books in town have 25 or 30. If they beat Ohio State and McSorley goes off, that'll be probably 8, 9, or 10 to 1 on Monday.
There's still plenty of time for some of these long shots to get back into the game. Still very early in the college football season. And, Barkley was basically handed the Heisman Trophy this time of year last year, and then Mayfield ended up winning it in a landslide. It's not over yet, but Tua's got a pretty big lead right now.
And we talk about long shots that probably will never even sniff the ceremony. Devin Singletary is a guy for FAU who is going to probably lead the country in touchdowns scored. He's already got 10 thus far, but he's not going to get any run because he plays for a team like FAU. But probably should be considered.
Well, are they going to win enough games to
and
really,
that's the other thing.
I don't think that he's really a candidate, but his numbers are going to be very impressive.
A.J. Dillon is 30 to 1 still.
Yep, A.J. Dillon.
Boston College.
Yep. But Mackenzie Milton, I think, of the others considered, you would probably put highest on the list, right? Because he's going to put up the video game numbers against pretty bad defense.
He's going to put up the numbers, but I don't think he can win. I don't think he can win playing that schedule.
All right. I'll have to expand the panel. Maybe we'll get an email chain going.
Be great.
And we can get some votes in on this.
I want to be on more and more panels, John. So please.
I've never been on a panel before.
I either.
Established this panel.
Be my first panel. I'd like to be a part of it.
Well, do you consider Guess the Closing Line with John Murray a panel?
That's more of America's favorite game show than a panel. We could rebrand it as a panel.
All right. Well, that's coming up next here on Between the Sidelines.
This is Between the Sidelines, the daily football show that gets you ready for all the action. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
I'll tell you, with the increase in the number of roughing the passer calls, with the point of emphasis on illegal contact, and that number is soaring, look at the stats, look at the points, look at the number of plays. And, when you're talking about gamblers, and I'm not really one of them, everything is up. And that's really kind of what the competition committee wanted. But still, there needs to be a line drawn where you don't overprotect the quarterback and you don't over-officiate illegal contact, because the game almost becomes what's already not fair to the defense, now too unfair to the defense.
But going forward, guys, I think you're going to see more single high safety stuff, and I think you're going to see those receivers challenged a little bit more, because what defenses have realized through 2 games is that Mahomes, along with the height, is fearless. The guy will throw the ball through a needle if he had to. So he's got the arm strength. He's got a tremendous amount of confidence right now. He's also got a coordinator that's tenacious. Give you one more.
Yes.
I would say this: bad offensive lines don't travel well.
Bad offensive lines don't
whenever
travel
a bad
well.
line goes on the road, bad offensive lines don't travel well. That's one of my creeds in the league that I've always lived by. When you play a bad line on the road, you better be. What people, we don't understand this, and this is what I wrote about in my book. The number one advantage the offense has is the snap count. And so a bad line with the snap count in their favor can gain something, can gain an advantage. A bad line that can't hear the snap count on the road has no advantage.
The Eagles and Carson Wentz. Now, he is worth the least, according to this chart. This was before the season started. Just 2 points difference between him and Nick Foles because of, and this was, again, coming off of that Super Bowl and playoff run by Nick Foles. After we've seen 2 weeks of Nick Foles in the regular season, that number has changed, correct? Like, Carson Wentz is worth a little bit more because Nick Foles is not the Foles we thought he was.
Probably a little bit more, but right now I'm saying 1.5 because Wentz hasn't played a game yet.
Okay. So at full strength, then it's probably
a
about
month from
maybe
now,
3.
3 weeks,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 weeks from now, it's probably more like 3.5. Right now it's probably 1.5 because Wentz hasn't played.
Welcome back to our daily football show, live from the Sportsbook at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Now back to Between the Sidelines.
Rousing conversation during the break about our viewing habits here, other than sports.
It was very good. It's a very good topic. What would Netflix have to charge you that you would pull the plug, John? I'll put you in the hot seat.
Max, probably like $25.99, and I'd still think about it pretty hard.
We don't want to talk about this too much. We don't want to give the Netflix suits any ideas about.
No, that's right. They were like, that guy. At least we can get that guy.
That guy would pay anything. Look at that guy.
Your over-under's a little lower. 1995? Is that the over-under?
1995, yeah. I mean, $29.99, I think I'd balk at that a little bit.
I should also be very honest. I am a grown man who takes care a lot of his own responsibilities. The one thing I do not, my mom pays for my Netflix. So
John will pay anything.
So I'm totally willing. Yeah, I'm totally willing to pay whatever price it is.
Go ahead and jack it up.
That's right. Won't hurt my pocketbook. All right. This is the game show that is sweeping the nation after Double Dare 2000. Let's do it. It's Guess the Closing Lines with John Murray, the Westgate Superbook. This is where I bust out my super skinny microphone and the flower lapel. And I go, walk on down, John. What's going on?
Who put that together? I like that intro.
That would be Robert in control right
That's
now.
some good work.
Director.
That's good work.
Very solid.
Very good
We
work.
just need something to spin for some reason, and that's all we need.
It's
spin Rob.
3.5.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do this. All right, we'll start with Thursday night then. 6.5 is where we're sitting right now. Total, we don't need it. We don't care because we're just guessing the closing line. 6.5, the Rams being favored at home over the Minnesota Vikings. I think at some point we see 7 due to the performance from the Vikings against the Bills and the fact that everybody loves the Rams. However, it will be fleeting, and it closes at 6.5.
Books will probably go to 7 at some point between now and Thursday, but every time they do, I think the wise guys are going to come in and take the Vikings. Rams missing both of their starting cornerbacks. This is a good buy spot on Minnesota. Their stock could never be lower than it is after a Buffalo Bills loss. I think it'll close 6. I think we'll see a little 7. It'll disappear fast.
I actually think it goes down to 6, though, and then gets built back up. I agree with you guys. I think it'll close 7 by kickoff, but there will be some positions here on Minnesota. They'll grab anything over 6. Obviously, they'll wait for 7, too, and then hit that. But it'll probably close with all the public action on the Rams. I'd move it to 7, but I think it goes down before it goes back up.
We move to another team coming off of a poor performance. 251, 252 on your rotation. New England taking on Miami. We are seeing New England -7 even money in a lot of shops around town, including yours, John Murray, over at the Westgate Superbook.
I got to think it goes up from here, John. I think this number has come down as much as it can. Miami, they're 3-0, but they've played a very easy schedule so far. New England, I like them to bounce back in this spot. I think we'll see the number go up a little bit. But there will be a lot of public bettors taking Miami money line because they're 3-0, and New England looks so bad on Sunday night.
Yeah, they watched that. The nation watched that. New England really struggled to stop Matthew Stafford, who I believe was 4-50 or something like that against teams with a winning record. So people remember what they've last seen. It'll probably close at 8, and I'm telling you right now, when I pop these bad boys in and when I put the Vikings in my super contest, I hope I can get 7 on New England because I will love to lay 7 here in this spot.
All right, Houston and Indianapolis up next. Colts playing host. They are now a 1-point favorite. There's 1.5 out there. But with the Texans and their recent form, the fact that they're struggling offensively, the Colts have actually looked very competitive in the first 3 weeks. Could be 2-1 if Doyle doesn't fumble the ball in week 1 against the Bengals. If this goes anywhere, it's got to go up to about 2.5. I don't know. It's not going to reach 3, so I think 2.5 is the absolute ceiling.
Can I answer first?
Of course you can.
Pick them.
Don't be shocked if Houston closes favored in this game. We had a very sharp player take Houston +2 yesterday. One of our top NFL minds at the Westgate thinks Houston should have been favored all along. Don't be shocked.
I will not be shocked because you told me today.
Ed Salmons.
Well, that's speculation.
Cincinnati and Atlanta up next. Atlanta, 5.5-point favorite across the board here at home against a Bengals team that has looked much better offensively. This is an interesting spot. If it moves anything, it's going to be in the Falcons' favor, like 6 in that range.
Well, Atlanta's got a lot of defensive injuries right now, John. So I actually
lost another player.
I wouldn't be surprised to see this number come down. The Bengals have a lot of playmakers on offense. Atlanta with a bunch of injuries in the secondary. I could see this thing going to 4.5 or 5 on the Falcons by Sunday.
Pass rush makes a whole lot of sense here going up against Atlanta, too. I like that Bengals pressure they can put up front on the offensive line. I'll go Atlanta -5.
Okay. Buffalo and Green Bay. How about those Bills dominating the NFC North thus far? Now they get to take on the Packers at Lambeau and a hobbled Aaron Rodgers, clearly hobbled. We're sitting at 10 right now with Green Bay. You figure people would come in because of what they did against the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah. Does it go down to 9.5? Does it stay where it's at? I figure it's going to stay at about 10.
I don't think we're going to see big movement here, but I won't be surprised if it comes down a little bit because of what you said first. Aaron Rodgers is clearly injured.
Yep.
He's not close to 100%. And Josh Allen really looked good on Sunday against Minnesota. The Bills may have something there, John.
So we know Rodgers is most valuable to the spread for any quarterback. If he's not playing, are we really saying that this line is 3 or 4? I mean, what do we make this number if he doesn't go?
Well, he's going to go because if he was going to sit a game out, he would have sat out the Viking game. But, yeah, I think you're looking at a number in the neighborhood of like 3.5 or 4 because DeShone Kizer is so bad.
And you want to lay 4 with DeShone Kizer regardless? Yeah.
No, I wouldn't.
And Green Bay is just not a very good team. Aaron Rodgers carries that whole team on his back. Yep. I know Buffalo is pretty bad, but Green Bay without Rodgers is almost as bad.
Anything else there, Sam?
Nope.
Okay.
Good.
All right, Detroit and Dallas. It's a field goal across the board. Cowboys favored at home against the Lions. You talked about how Matthew Stafford struggles against teams with winning records. Luckily, the Cowboys are 1-2, and he's on the road where he hates to be as well. But coming off of a strong performance against the New England Patriots, what's the action like here?
I think the sharp money is actually going to come in on the dog, John. Dallas is just not very good. I know that they made me look bad 2 weeks ago when I picked the Giants against them. But I'm still convinced the Cowboys are not a good team. I liked Seattle a lot last week. I like Detroit in this spot.
2.5 then? We'll see that pop up?
We'll see it come down.
Yep.
I think it'll close at 3. I think you'll have good two-way action on this game. And I have to correct myself here. So Matthew Stafford now, his regular season record against teams with a winning record, 7-49.
It's much better than
6-49.
That's not very good, Sam. 7-49.
No, it's less than 13%.
Yeah.
That's good math.
I was going to say, right on the fly. Yeah, that's pretty
math.
good. All right, New York Jets and the Jacksonville Jaguars up next. 7 and a hook across the board. Jacksonville being favored at home. We did see Jacksonville get bet up against the Tennessee Titans last week, but after that poor performance against them, don't know if they can pull it off again here, at least in terms of getting that action. Jets coming off of a long week as well.
I think it's more likely to go up, actually, John.
Yeah.
I don't see how this thing could get down to 7. Jets do have 3 extra days to prepare for this game. It's a lot to ask of Sam Darnold, the rookie, going on the road against Jacksonville. Jacksonville now needing a win after the shocking loss on Sunday.
Calais Campbell a little banged up, though, for the Jags. Yep. They didn't have really any injuries last season. They hit the lottery with the health on the defensive side of the ball. You don't usually see that where a team goes a whole season without any injuries on defense, and they're starting to get a little banged up here. But I'm with Johnny here. I would not want to be on Darnold going up against that defense. They're in a bounce-back spot. They look terrible against the Titans. I think it goes to maybe 8.5.
All right, first 2 weeks, the Chicago Bears were a bet-on team against the Packers and the Seahawks. Last week, they were bet against in a tough spot, being a road favorite against the Arizona Cardinals. Now they're back at home, laying a field goal against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, playing on a short week.
Well, this number's already come up from our opener, which was Chicago -1.5. I think it's going to go down back closer to that opening number. I'm not sure why the Bears are a full field goal favorite here. Trubisky, he's struggled a lot, and they were pretty fortunate to win that game on Sunday against Arizona.
No doubt about it. They should have lost that game. I mean, they were down 14-0, and then their defense really locked in. They shut down Arizona, which isn't really saying all that much. No. I would agree with you, though, John. I think it maybe gets down to 2, but then I think by kickoff it's back to 3 because there will be a lot of public support, and there'll probably be some sharp support on Chicago for anything under 3. So it'll probably get back to 3.
Short week for the Buccaneers, too. It's a tough spot for them. The Bears' defense is so good.
Yeah. Another game under the belt here for Carson Wentz as he travels to Tennessee to take on the Tennessee Titans. Mariota, probable, as is Jay Ajayi. So some key bodies back for both teams here. Eagles are a 3.5-point favorite on the road. Where does this number go, John?
Saw some sharp money come in on Philadelphia yesterday, John.
Yeah.
I think this number is going to get pushed up maybe to 4.5. You know, the public is going to love to back the Eagles as a cheap road favorite.
Yeah.
Sharp groups on the Eagles. I think this thing will go up.
I would agree with that, and I'm hoping for that because I want 4 more when I pick the Titans in my contest. So let's get it up. Let's keep jacking it up.
Are you in the Super Contest?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Seattle and Arizona up next. Seahawks road chalk here. -3, -120 in a lot of spots. Arizona just covered at home against those Bears in the road or in the home dog roll. Question is, can they do it again? And do bettors believe that they can? It's 3.5 now here at the South Point.
You know, the Cardinals kind of went all in for that game Sunday.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a flat spot here, John. Although I am happy for their fans that they finally went to Josh Rosen. I don't know what they were doing with Sam Bradford. That never made any sense to me. But I think this number will probably come down a little bit. Seattle with that offense laying more than 3.5 points on the road seems a little crazy.
Yeah.
To me.
Closes 3. I think it'll close 3, but at this point in time, how can you back the Cardinals, JVT? Yep. I mean, with what happened to them last week, that's a soul-searching loss after you're up 14-0 and can't complete the cycle. I would love to back Arizona in a lot of spots this year. This is not one of them.
All right, what about backing Oakland? Backs against the wall, back at home in the black hole, taking on the Cleveland Browns, who are flying high off of that win over the New York Jets on Thursday Night Football. Open pick, Raiders 2.5. Does it get any higher? Are the Raiders going to get back here?
We opened at pick, and we immediately took money on the Raiders. I think the number's actually going to come back down. I think the money's going to come in on Baker Mayfield and the Browns. But I told Brian Rogers before I came on set, I think the Raiders win this game, John. The Raiders finally get their first win of the season on Sunday.
Interesting. Raiders -1 sounds good on the close. Right around 1. I think Raiders -1 makes sense.
I hate to hear that, John. I've got a straight-up bet here with one Brent Musburger on this contest. We're going head-to-head.
What is the parameters? Browns versus Raiders?
He wanted the opening line of pick, so I've got the Browns pick. A poor number.
We opened at pick.
Yeah.
So I guess we made a poor number as well, John.
San Francisco and the Chargers up next. San Francisco, of course, now without Jimmy Garoppolo. It looks like it's going to be C.J. Beathard at the controls. This has already moved up, of course. The Chargers now 10.5. And just with the news alone, you expect the Chargers to get a lot of support at some point. The question is, how high does it get? We've seen some of these numbers go up throughout the regular season thus far in the first 3 weeks.
John, isn't that that's a big number to lay with the Chargers, huh? That's a big number.
You know, we opened at 9.5. The Chargers are a really bad home favorite. They've never been good, or they haven't been good as a home favorite in recent years. I think it's going to come down a little bit, but it's going to be hard for me to back C.J. Beathard, John. That guy looked so bad last year. I remember he played against the Giants. He looked like he'd no idea what he was doing. It's a tough spot to go with the Niners here, but I think we'll see some of the wise guys playing them with those points.
See, because I just don't know if I trust. There's no real statistical analysis here. Do you trust Phillip Rivers and the Chargers, who constantly come up short in spots like this, to do this?
You know, I think there was some talk last week about which coaches were on the hot seat.
Yeah.
I'd put Anthony Lynn in L.A. firmly on the hot seat. I know they've had a tough schedule to start the year, but that team is way too talented to be underachieving like this.
Tough break for San Francisco. You lose McKinnon before the season to a torn-out knee, and now you lose the face of the franchise, the kid, Garoppolo, quarterback and running back, both on the shelf with knee injuries.
And one of your big free agent acquisitions, Richard Sherman, also dealing with an injury too. Didn't come back in that game. So this team is just beat to hell. And you've got a head coach, Kyle Shanahan, who's a loser because he likes to kick field goals when he's down 14 with 5 minutes left.
I still believe in Kyle Shanahan, John, but What is the point of kicking a field goal to go down by 11?
Because you make a 2-score deficit a 2-score deficit.
Someone's going to have to explain that one to me. And he kicked a field goal right before halftime. I know he had to because it was right before halftime, but cut it from 35-7 to 35-10.
Nice.
That was critical.
Yes, it was. New Orleans and the Giants up next. New York at home, catching 3.5. Solid performance from the New Orleans Saints against the Atlanta Falcons. Their defense. The one thing, though, you could say about New Orleans, offense looks great through 3 weeks. Defense is not good. And not at all.
No, not at all. But you know what? This is in the afternoon time slot where there's only a few games. So the Saints are going to be the really big public play of the day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a lot of money come in across town on the Saints. I think you're going to see some sharp buyback on the Giants, but I expect this number to go up a little bit. The public will be all over New Orleans here.
I actually think 3.5 makes sense. It won't be 3, although you'll be getting people that are going to be hitting 3.5 or 4 on the Giants or going back home. Humans is on the Giants again. He said he's going to probably take the Giants. 3.5 sounds right because if it gets to 4, there's going to be some buy on the Giants at 4. So I'll just say 3.5.
Okay. Baltimore and Pittsburgh Sunday night. It's a field goal spread, -3, -120 in most shops right now. Pittsburgh at home against these Ravens. 3.5 here at the South Point Hotel and Casino because they don't do that. They are -110 both sides each time. We've already seen the move, of course, here at 3.5. I would think it doesn't get below 2. The Steelers are going to get the backing.
I don't see why this number would go off of anything but 320 or 3 flat as we get closer to Sunday. There's not much separating these two teams. That line makes perfect sense to me. I don't see why this number would move a lot off that number.
3 makes a whole lot of sense here. Coin flip, 3.
It's AFC North. It's exactly what it is. You can just set these contests at 3 and then let it sit.
3 points for home field. That's it.
Remember the old Steelers-Ravens games back when the NFL allowed hitting? How physical some of those games were?
When was that? How long ago was that?
It was like maybe 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Back in the days of Troy Polamalu?
Yeah, Polamalu and Terrell Suggs and all those guys. That was back when they were allowed to hit each other. They didn't have to just use their words, John.
Paint swapping, I feel like, is the term.
Very good term.
Monday night, Kansas City at Denver. Broncos are 5-point dogs in this spot here. 4.5 some spots, but there's 5s everywhere else. I would expect if this is going anywhere, it's going up. It's going to be 5, 5.5, maybe even 6. They love Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
What's not to like with the Chiefs right now? That Chiefs offense looks unstoppable. Yes, this line will most likely go up. We had a sharp group lay 4.5 yesterday on the Chiefs. If a lot of the favorites come in on Sunday, there'll be so much parlay liability to Kansas City in this game. This thing will probably go up to 5.5 or 6 maybe, depending on how many of those favorites win, how much parlay liability is out there.
I have an answer. There's some questions with this defense, that's for sure. Now, granted, they've been up a lot, and they go into prevent for half the game.
So they're not good.
I don't think they're great. I think they're a bottom-half defense. I mean, they're not 31 or 32 in the league over the course of the season, but there were some metrics after the first couple of weeks that they were 31st or 32nd in, which is not ideal. And there's going to come a time where this kid's going to face adversity. It's just inevitable. He's not going to play like this for the rest of the season. He's the MVP favorite right now in the global markets. Mahomes 3-1 to win the MVP. Eventually, this thing is going to get too inflated, and they're going to have to lay an egg somewhere. And I like this spot for the Broncos a whole lot.
The difference between Kansas City and the Rams right now is Kansas City's played a really tough schedule.
Yeah.
Whereas the Rams have basically played some cupcakes so far. Kansas City's been playing really good teams and winning easily. I just can't help but be impressed by these guys. They look like they might be the best team in the league right now.
Do we think the Steelers are good, though?
I still believe in the Steelers.
Yes,
I know that was a very poor performance defensively, but yes, I still believe in the Steelers.
I think offensively, the Steelers are still exactly who we thought they were. It's just the defense that really has to kind of step up and perform much better than they have in the last few weeks. And then last night, I mean, you saw it. They forced some key turnovers. They were really opportunistic.
The Steelers have a lot of big-name players on their defense. I don't know why they've struggled so much so far, John, but I think that they'll right the ship. And offensively, as long as they have Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster, that's plenty of weapons for Ben, even if Le'Veon Bell doesn't come back.
I agree, though, on the number. The number's going to go to 6.
Oh, yeah, it's not going – definitely not reaching 4.
Not going to 3.
To your point, we're talking about these defenses. Kansas City, 6.7 yards per play. That ranks 30th in the NFL in terms of yards per play allowed, 6.7 for Kansas City. And it's funny, I brought this up yesterday with humans and talking about this game. You know, we made all this fuss about Pittsburgh and how bad they've been thus far defensively. They actually ranked 10 spots higher than the Kansas City Chiefs, 5.9 yards per play.
John, they may be up by so much. They're in a prevent defense. They're giving up some throws over the middle with these huge leads. That's something to consider. It's only been 3 weeks, but I'm not here to say the Chiefs have an elite defense.
Yep.
But sometimes when you're up by that much, you're giving up some soft pass plays.
And they are going to get better because Eric Berry at some point is going to come back.
And Denver is not a great offensive team.
Oh, God.
They're not a great offensive team.
They're relying on rookie running backs again.
They were very lucky to beat the Raiders 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
They looked pretty helpless on offense against Baltimore this past week. This will be a better test, I think, for the Chiefs' defense, or easier test for the Chiefs' defense.
But I will say, if there's one spot that slows Mahomes and them down, when you have to face Von Miller and Bradley Chubb and that front seven that they do have, which is still pretty good in Denver and in altitude, like this is the test. If they're going to keep this rolling, this is going to be pretty impressive if they can.
The Denver defense is not what it was in the last few years, but yeah, it's probably I would think the best group they've faced so far this year.
Which teaser is more popular? Will it be the Rams from 6.5 to 0.5, or will it be the Patriots from 7 to 1?
I'll say the Rams because that's an island game. Everyone's going to include that in their teasers, and people are going to be a little gun shy about the Patriots right now, Sammy. Two really bad losses in a row for the Patriots. Tom Brady looks like an old man finally. I'll definitely go with the Rams there.
It's over. Sky's falling. It's all done in New England.
Sky's falling. It's over. The Patriots are done.
They're done. Absolutely. No.
Wow.
Defensively, they are. How about that? I've brought that up a couple times. Defensively, they're not good. When you're getting blown off the line of scrimmage by the Lions, it's not going to be very good. They're going to be in a lot of shootouts this year.
This is a flex game.
But Tom Brady's still going to win 10 to 11 games with that division. And they're going to be in the postseason.
How many times have we seen this when an upstart team in the division starts 3-1 or 3-0, and they go into New England, and there's all the hype here. You know, Tom Brady's he's overrated, he's old, defense isn't good, and the Patriots win by 17.
We've seen that many times, and we don't want to overreact too much in September to any of this stuff, Sammy, but you've got to be concerned about the Patriots right now. They looked awful on Sunday night against a bad Detroit team.
Last note on the Chiefs. Who would you say is the best defense on their schedule? Chargers, Steelers, 49ers?
I guess I'd have to go with the 49ers as long as Bosa's not out there for the Chargers.
Yep.
I guess I'll go with the 49ers.
So building up.
Not great.
Yeah, not great. Not great slate of defenses. So we'll see once they actually reach maybe the Jags on October 7th, because that'll be a pretty good test.
Jacksonville's got a fine defense. And do they play the Browns this year, Johnny? I love that Cleveland D.
November 4th.
Oh, baby.
Yes.
I'll be watching that game, sir.
Yeah.
Total in that one, Cleveland-Jacksonville, 37.5, 38?
Probably a little higher now. You know, Sammy, I don't know if you've picked up on this. They're throwing a lot of flags in these NFL games.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it's leading to some overs.
All right. That does it for guessing the closing lines, the game show sweeping the nation here on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. When we come back, we do have play action. John really, really wants to get this play out there, so he's going to get it to you, the people who are listening.
This is Between the Sidelines, the daily football show that gets you ready for all the action. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at VSiN.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
Do not jump as a gambler. Do not jump to conclusions on athletes, players, coaches. Do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor when you do this, because these guys will beat you the next time. I'll tell you right now that the Buffalo Bills are going to cover some spreads this year, okay? And maybe this week. There are some really good players on the Buffalo Bills. Trust me on this one, okay? These guys can flat play, all right? And let's say Josh Allen unleashes that rocket arm from Laramie, Wyoming, and hits 2 70-yarders. Bada bing. Say goodbye to your cash.
No, Paul, I agree with you, but where's the line? Where's the line of this is so egregious it had to be a mistake? And where that's why I think that. And
what
again,
happened
I
there?
don't work at the control board, but my guess is that they are going to make them pay them.
Now
pay this gentleman.
You think so? You think he's going to win the lawsuit?
Oh, wow.
I do. I think because where's the line? I mean, yeah, of course that was a glitch. That was an egregious error. But where's the line? Where do you say this is so obviously an error, and where you say, okay, well, this one's not that bad?
Yeah, you're right.
How do you determine that?
People ask me all the time. My number one question is newbies on Twitter saying, hey, Crack, can you help me out with this? I'm trying to do this. What should I do? How should I? Listen, I hate to give a shameless plug, but turn on VSiN. Seriously. I mean, for sports betting, where else are you going to get 24-hour network? Or where else are you going to get a network like this to help people just by turning on a Sirius radio or going to VSiN.com? I'm not trying to really – you didn't tell me to do this. I'm just telling you the truth. The people at home should subscribe to this and get the information. It's a great start for them.
The Bears haven't shown that they're going to be a high-powered offense yet. We know in the offseason they went out and got Allen Robinson and Gabriel, and they drafted Anthony Miller, and signed Trey Burton as a free agent. So they have a lot of skilled players there that can help. But until I see Trubisky take that next level and really produce at a high pace. You look at Kansas City and how Patrick Mahomes opened it up, and you even looked last year at how Deshaun Watson was scoring points and opening it up. I still haven't seen Mitchell Trubisky do that yet, so until he can do that on a continuous basis, I think a lot of Bear games are going to be closer, a lot more defensive battles, and I think maybe the under is the play here tonight as well.
Welcome back to our daily football show, live from the Sportsbook at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Now back to Between the Sidelines.
A couple nuggets out of college football before we get to play action. In the Mountain West, San Diego State already lost their quarterback to an injury. Now out is their leading rusher, up to 6 weeks. Juwan Washington dealing with a broken clavicle, so he's going to miss quite a bit of time. So your leading rusher, your quarterback, gone for the San Diego State Aztecs.
That's going to be tough for them offensively, John.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think so for San Diego State. And then out of Clemson, we opened up talking about the quarterback position and the move now to Trevor Lawrence at starting quarterback. Dabo Swinney says he and Kelly Bryant discussed transferring after the benching.
So, unlike Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney's going to let his benched quarterback go somewhere else. He's not going to lead him on.
Perhaps. It's part of the discussion.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I respect that.
Yeah, it'd be very respectable to let him go. Or you can use him like Saban uses Jalen Hurts. Burns the only redshirt year you have to go throw 3 passes against Texas A&M. All right, let's go to the play action. What do you got for us, John Murray?
Well, you know, I wanted to give Europe to win the Ryder Cup. Matt Jones wouldn't let me do it. He said it had to be a football play. So I'm going to go with Chip Kelly and the Bruins.
Oh.
I liked it better at 10.5, Sammy.
We talked about it last night. It was
I liked
11.
it better at 10.5, but I'll take it. I'll take plus 10 here in this spot. Friday night at Colorado, I think Chip Kelly finally gets the job, or gets the ship righted.
Okay.
How about that, John?
And does not lose by more than 10 points.
0-3 this year. How about a money line shot? Maybe.
I'm going to stick with the points for now.
Of course
Sammy.
you are. But are you gonna give you a chance to call your shot?
Is riding the ship not losing by more than 10 points?
If he can stay within the number,
yeah.
He's good by me. That's all I needed Texas A&M to do last Saturday, and they did it for me.
Yes, they did. Thank you, Kellen Mond. What do you got?
I'm taking Minnesota. I'm going all in on this one. I'll take the 6.5 because I won't be here tomorrow or Thursday to get the 7. I'll play it now. I won't be here. Minnesota plus 6.5. Ultimate buy low spot. They just lost to the Bills. Everybody remembers that. There's some value in that number. I'll take 6.5.
So is it all just buy low for you, or are there things like actually on the field?
I don't like also for Los Angeles, you don't have your top 2 corners. You don't have Peters or Talib. And I think the linebacking core is going to be tested. There's a big tight end named Kyle Rudolph that this linebacking core is going to be very familiar with on Thursday night. The middle of the field is the weakness for the Rams, and they have the tight end to exploit it.
Sammy, this is why the Vikings spent all that money to get Kirk Cousins. He needs to deliver on Thursday.
Has he won a big game in his career yet?
Not that I'm aware of, and I am a Redskins fan.
This is the one.
Yeah, I mean, this is where he needs to step up. Both Rams cornerbacks out. He needs to have a big game.
And this line before this week was 3.5?
Yeah, 4, I think 4.5 on the look-ahead number. It's an exaggerated number because of what happened this weekend. And again, the Rams really haven't played anybody yet.
And they're 3-0 against the spread, the Rams.
Yeah, and you got to when the on the thought of Cousins, he was awful last week. The fumbles on the first 2 possessions, missing guys downfield. It was odd. And, of course, there was the weird off-the-field issue with Griffin and what was going on Saturday night. Yeah. So maybe that played into it. But it was a bad spot for him overall, even if you don't count that in, considering that you're looking ahead, the sandwich spot, if you will.
The Vikings got caught looking ahead to this game is what happened. I think that's very obvious.
Who do you got?
I will go, and I will take the points with BYU taking on Washington, 17.5. This BYU team we have seen is a physical bunch. They look really good. They've covered their last 2 games. I will take 17.5 points with this team against the Washington Huskies. I think this is a prime spot to take a lot of points. Washington's not going to cover this number.
All underdogs on the card this week, gentlemen. We need some low-scoring affairs this weekend.
That's right. It's dog or pass, right? Just like Dave Toole.
Dog or pass, apparently. I took a dog last week, A&M. They stayed within the number.
That's right.
Easy.
You also gave Uncle Brent the Seahawks.
Did you really?
You love the Seahawks.
You know what? That's true and not true. Really, Brent gave me the Seahawks.
Oh.
You know, I was in studio with Brent last Tuesday, and he was talking up the Seahawks. And then I used them in the Golden Nugget contest. I should be thanking Brent for that pick.
I just saw a clip of him asking you for the pick, and you said Seattle.
Well, that's true. But he was the one who first brought it to my attention.
Okay.
Brent liked the Steelers yesterday, too. So Brent, all he does is win.
That's good.
That's all he
Steelers
does.
a good pick, man.
Yep. All right, My Guys in the Desert coming up next. Speaking of Brent, he's here. He's actually in studio, so he's going to be at the desk to take over for the next 2 hours. So, John Murray, thank you very much, as you always do, coming in on Tuesday. Sam, thanks for sticking around. My Guys in the Desert coming up next.
This is Between the Sidelines, the daily football show that gets you ready for all the action. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
I'm Brent Musburger, reminding you that the football betting season is here. There is nothing like it. Are you ready to celebrate the thrill of victory and cash a ticket even on defeats? Sharpen your edge now with the help of Matt Humans, Dave Tooley, and the rest of My Guys in the Desert. We'll get you prepared for the football season with exclusive handicapping stories and data that you won't find anywhere else. Go to vsin.com/subscribe for the package that makes sense for you, including a 1-week trial at no charge. Our new all-access subscription includes Point Spread Weekly, vSin's digital magazine designed to make you a better handicapper and avoid the agony of defeat. You'll also get vSin's 140-plus page college football betting guide, followed by our comprehensive pro football betting guide in August. Sign up now, vsin.com/subscribe. That's vsin.com/subscribe. Remember, cashing tickets is what it's all about.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
I'll tell you.